Hello, everybody. What a beautiful way to come in the room for St. Patrick's Day. You all know the fabulous Dennis Donnelly from Ubuntu Choir Network, who is going to play for us while I say our hellos today. We're having a Zoom miracle because you can hear him and hear me at the same time. So we are going to hold on to that every minute we have it. I want to thank Steve Winnick and Jen Cutting for being here today. I want to thank Kevin Elam for being here today. And I want to say also hello to everybody out there on Facebook Live. We're so glad you've joined us today. Happy St. Patrick's Day in the daily antidote of song as we approach our 1 year of singing together every day through this pandemic. And as we start looking towards our second year, who would have ever believed it, of singing in the daily antidote of song. So welcome again, everybody on Facebook Live. Hello, Aaron, and thank you for running the tech today. Dennis, Steve, Jen, and Kevin, we're so glad you're here. Hello, Aloysius in Mass, Becky in Vancouver, Gay, nice to see you. Kim, hello, Deborah in Kentucky, Karen in Arizona, Susan in Ohio, Carolyn in Idaho. Hello, Brian. Hello, Dick and Kathy from the Getting Higher Choir in Victoria. Jim Harkless, hello, we're so glad you're with us today, coming in from Maryland. Randy, hello, nice to see you. And Renata, hello, great to see you, coming in from Wisconsin. Christiana and Bob in Rockville, Sarah in Texas. Hello, Susan. Hello, Kathy in Virginia. Hello, Deli, nice to see you. Hello, Nancy's Irish Cow, there you go, right day for that, in Washington State. Betsy coming in from DC. Hello, Lisa in Indiana. Hello, Hetty, nice to see you. Sue in California. Anne and Bonnie in Idaho. And Birdie coming in from Michigan, great to see you today. Hello to Rosalie, also coming in from Michigan. Hello from Luda in Victoria. Barbara, Bob, Peggy and John, Valerie in Kentucky. Another Barb. Hi, Barb. I saw the first wave. This is the second wave. Very good. Hello, Shane, coming in again with his family. That's great to see you today. Hello to little tiny baby. So glad you're here with me. And hello to Sheila in Florida, John in Long Island, Kathleen in Albuquerque, Sandy in the Yukon, Tom in Victoria, Kevin in New Hampshire, and so many other folks still here. Karen in Utah, Annette, California, Jamie in Victoria, Janet in Georgia, Gary in Mass, Dan in Virginia, Suzanne, hello, and so many folks off video today. So glad you've all decided to join us. What a better place to be than right here for St. Patrick's Day in the Daily Antidote of Song. Thanks, gang. Lyrics will be in the chat. My email's in the chat if you have any questions. Let's all give a huge thank you to Dennis Donnelly for the beautiful background music. Thank you, Dennis. That was totally gorgeous, Dennis. Thank you so, so much. And I'm going to turn the floor over right now to Stephen Winnick and Jennifer Cutting from the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress, our partners in so much that we have done in here in the Daily Antidote. Folks, I'm turning it over to you. Welcome. Great to see you.
Thank you, Joe. Well, as Joe said, I'm Jennifer Cutting, and this is my colleague and partner in crime, Stephen Winnick.
Hi, everyone.
And we are both folklife specialists at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. And we want to welcome you to our third day of our Archive Challenge Partnership Week 3 on the Daily Antidote of Song. On this misty, moisty morning, very Irish weather we're having here in DC.
Cloudy was
chilly, foggy. So appropriate for a St. Patrick's Day. So thanks for joining us and happy St. Patrick's Day. We're going to celebrate by dipping into our Irish collections today. Steve and I have the privilege of working in the largest folklore archive in the US and one of the largest in the world. So for us, because we're both, wouldn't you say we're archive nerds?
Archive nerds, folklore nerds for sure.
And musicians also, who love to find great songs and tunes. It sometimes feels like being a person with a sweet tooth who works in a bakery. So we wanted others to have that same experience too. So we had the idea of inviting artists to research our collections. Usually in pandemic times, they're researching our online digital archive and to find a song or tune that really inspires them and to arrange or interpret that piece in their own way, adding their own creativity to it. And we call it the Archive Challenge. And we've been running archive challenges since 2015, both at the Library of Congress and at folk music conferences like Folk Alliance. and now during the pandemic from home.
Right.
So we're going to tell you more about the Stay at Home Archive Challenge, which we invite you to participate in a little bit later.
Yeah, but given that today's St. Patrick's Day, we thought it would be fun to feature an artist who would dip into our Irish collection material, as Jennifer said. And that artist is from right here in the DC area, Kevin Elam. And Kevin is an All-Ireland champion singer and multi-instrumentalist who plays Irish traditional music on the tin whistle, guitar, banjo, and mandolin. He has a strong background in classical piano and a degree in jazz studies. And he was awarded first place in men's English language singing at the 2019 Flacciol in Ireland. And he took home the coveted Daily Shield, which he might even be able to show us later, which is an award won by only one other American in its 62-year history. So congratulations to Kevin on that again, although it's been a couple of years, we can extend those congratulations forever. That was
Absolutely.
a great accomplishment. And Kevin really enjoys sharing his knowledge with his students and has given classes and workshops on traditional music throughout the United States, or the Eastern United States, I should say, including with the faculty of DC's premier Irish traditional music festival, Mad Week. And he can be heard playing and singing at weekly sessions at the Irish Inn and Glen Echo when there's not a pandemic, and at a variety of other DC area festivals and concerts. So we will let Kevin tell you more about the song from our archive that he's picked, and we hope you'll stay with us for a few minutes after that when we'll all talk about it. So we're turning it over to Kevin Elam. Welcome.
All right. Hey, folks. Thank you, Steve, Jennifer, and Joe for all the wonderful introductions, and to Dennis for the wonderful harp music. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. It's great to see you all. So I was really excited to be asked to do this project, and I just, when I looked through the archive, this song sort of jumped out at me. It was the song that I had sort of heard of before, but this was the first time I really got into the song and really learned it. So without further ado, it's called Mrs. McGrath, and it's a song about a young lad who goes off to war and unfortunately loses his legs and then comes back and has a conversation with his mother. So it's sort of humorous, but also kind of a serious topic at the same time. So this one, the recording was of a singer named Seamus Ennis, but we'll leave that for after. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and sing the song for you, and just listen real close to the chorus. It's nonsense syllables, so you should be able to pick it up pretty easily. Here we go with Mrs. McGrath. Oh, Mrs. McGrath, the sergeant said, would you like to make a soldier out of your son Ted? With the new fur coat and the tall cocked hat, now, Mrs. McGrath, wouldn't you like that? With the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya, with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya. Now Mrs. McGrath lived on the seashore for the space of 7 long years or more. When she saw a tall ship coming into the bay, that's my son Ted, we should clear the way with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya, with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya. Well then, Captain dear, where have you been? Or have you been sailing on the Mediterranean? And have you any tidings of my son Ted? Is the poor boy living, or is he dead? With the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya, with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya. Well then, up comes Ted without any legs, and in their stead he has 2 wooden pegs. She kissed him a dozen times or 2, crying, holy Moses, it isn't you, with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya, with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, too-ry-oo-ry-oo-ry-ya. Well then, were you drunk, or were you blind, when you left your 2 fine legs behind? Or was it though working out on the sea, wore your 2 fine legs from the knees away, with the too-ry-ya, da-da-diddle-da, Tooraya with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. No, I wasn't drunk and I wasn't blind when I left my 2 fine legs behind. But a big cannonball on the 5th of May took me 2 fine legs from the knees away with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. Oh, then Teddy, me boy, the widow cried, those 2 fine legs were your mother's pride. These stumps of a tree won't do at all. Why didn't you run from the cannonball with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. Well then, if I had you back again, I would never let you go to fight the King of Spain. For I'd rather have my Ted as he used to be than the King of France and his whole navy with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. All foreign wars I do proclaim between Don John and the King of Spain. And by heavens I'll make them rue the time that they swept the legs of a child of mine with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. Mrs. McGrath. Thanks, folks. I saw lots of heads bobbing and mouths moving, and that's great to see.
Am I muted? Am I back on?
You're back on.
Okay,
You're
great.
back on.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. That was a great take on it. I loved your vocal ornamentation, which was yours alone. They were in places that Seamus didn't put them, and I loved your choices about that and the way you held some lines and drew them out for dramatic impact, and gosh, just the way you memorized the whole thing so you could sing with your eyes closed. Well done. It's one of those, isn't it? This song, Mrs. McGrath, is one of those pieces that the Irish are so good at because it's sad and happy at the same time. It's a really serious subject, a beloved son going off to war and coming home without his legs, but it's got this very jaunty melody and this jaunty chorus, and yet it packs a powerful punch of protest.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also interesting. So Kevin and I had some discussions before about sort of interpretation, because there's a number of things that are unusual about Irish spelling and also about this particular song. So McGrath is actually spelled as we would spell McGrath in American English, but to say McGrath is considered an Americanism in Ireland. So we had to decide how we were going to spell it, how we were going to pronounce it. All of those questions were things that Kevin had to think about. And there was another little thing that came up, Kevin, that it might be fun to talk about, which is that Seamus Ennis added a little phrase to the end of each verse, which went, well, it sounded like it went, love bin the cracker-o, love bin the cracker-o. But it's hard to hear what he's saying because it's nonsense words. So Kevin and I had a discussion about that. Mention a little about that, Kevin, because that was a fun part of our.
Yeah. So the whole process was just so interesting, and so Seamus at the end of "Tooraya," sounded like, to me, it sounded like he said "love and the cracker-o," and that didn't seem any less sensical than the "toorayas" right before it, but it was kind of interesting because in the transcription it said "love bin the cracker-o," and I didn't know what that could possibly mean. So I emailed Steve, and he actually told me that in some previous transcriptions it had been recorded as some words in Irish, or Or Steve, was it? It was that it was very likely that it had
Right.
come
So
from Irish.
it was something that was certainly had derived from an Irish phrase, but it was already sort of half translated into English or changed into English. So the old one was Lav Beg the Crackero, which still is not clear what it meant, although Lav Beg could mean small arm or small hand, which is what it sounds like it means. But there are a few other possibilities for what that might mean. So, it was interesting because, Seamus Ennis was an important figure. And we mentioned this actually on Monday when Jennifer and I sang a song from his collections, that he had gotten his start actually as a printer's apprentice. And he worked at a printing press called Three Candles Press in Dublin for a man named Colm O'Loughlin. And Colm O'Loughlin published one of the first books of Irish songs in the English language published in Dublin or in Ireland, and it was called Irish Street Ballads. And Seamus was the kind of typesetter on that book. And that's where that other transcription came from. And Seamus Ennis almost certainly learned the song from Colm O'Loughlin, who said he learned it in the IRA actually prior to the 1916 Rising. It was a marching song that they used for the Irish volunteers. So that's sort of the genealogy of that phrase, Lav Beg the Crackero, came from Colm O'Loughlin's version, and we're still none the wiser as to what it means. And because of that, I guess Kevin decided, we don't really need to put that one more nonsense phrase in there at the end, because most people don't sing it that way. Most people leave that phrase out.
Well, that's why it's called the Archive Challenge. You're challenged to do it your own way. And I remember saying, when in doubt, leave it out.
That's right.
So do you think folks might enjoy hearing Seamus Ennis's version with the Love Beg, the Cracker?
I think that would be lovely.
Let's hear Seamus Ennis. So let's hear that field recording. This is what Kevin was going from.
It's very suddenly decided it doesn't want to play. Give me 1 minute. I'm so sorry.
Sure. While we're waiting for it to play, I'll just mention a word about Seamus Ennis. He was truly a giant of Irish folklore. He was the Alan Lomax of Ireland, born in 1919 in North Dublin to a set of very musical parents. His father was a prize-winning Uilleann piper, Uilleann meaning elbow pipes.
Said, would you like to make a soldier?
There we go. Here he is, Seamus Ennis.
Big cocked hat, no, Mrs. McGrath, wouldn't you like that? With your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, love them the cracker. Now Mrs. McGrath lived on the seashore for the space of 7 long years or more. When she saw a big ship sailing into the bay, here's my son Ted, wish she cleared the way with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, love and the cracker. Oh, then, Captain dear, where have you been? Or have you been sailing on the Mediterranean? Or have you any tidings of my son Ted? Is the poor boy living or is he dead? With your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, love beg the cracker. Oh, then up comes Ted without any legs, and in their stead he has 2 wooden pegs. She kissed him a dozen times or two, crying, Holy Moses, it isn't you, with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, love and the cracker. Oh, then were you drunk or were you blind when you left your 2 fine legs behind? Or was it the working on the say wore your 2 fine legs from the knees away with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, with your tooraya, follow diddle-la, tooray, hooray, hooray, love and the cracker. No, I wasn't drunk, nor I wasn't blind when I left me two fine legs behind. But a big cannonball on the 5th of May took me two fine legs from the knees away. With a too-rai-ah, fa-la-diddle-ah, too-rai-hoo-rai, hoo-rai-ah, with a too-rai-ah, fa-la-diddle-ah, too-rai, hoo-rai, hoo-rai-ah, love bang the cracker-o.
Yeah, everybody hears something different. I hear love then the crackero. It's,
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly not saying Love Beg the Crackero, which is the way it was written in O'Loughlin's book. So it had undergone a shift even by the time he started singing it. And what he thought he was singing in terms of a formerly Gaelic phrase is unclear. So
right.
Yeah.
Let's bring up a picture of Seamus. You've heard the voice. Let's see the man. The picture it has Seamus sitting with his Uilleann pipes. Can we find that?
Looks like
there we go. Seamus, there he is. Like I said, born in 1919 in North Dublin to two amazing musicians. And, he's kind of like Kevin here. He was a great singer and a great instrumentalist. The only thing is, Kevin's not collecting yet that we know of.
Right.
We're working on that. Anyway, so Seamus, like I said, he was a giant of Irish folklore because during his lifetime, he collected for the Irish Folklore Commission. He collected and presented for both Radio Éireann and the BBC on a show called, a very well-known show called As I Wrote Out. He was one of the presenters for that. And what made him such an amazing collector was not only that he spoke Irish, but several dialects of Irish, and very useful in the field, he had perfect pitch and he could reproduce melodies accurately after only hearing it once. So after hearing a song or a dance tune one time, he could either sing it or play it back perfectly or transcribe it perfectly.
Overachiever.
Oh,
yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, and he learned to transcribe again during his printing phase when he had to print all those melodies for Colm O'Loughlin. So yeah.
So using all that whole suite of skills, working for the Irish Folklore Commission, by the time he finished with them, he'd transcribed over 2,000 dance tunes and songs with their melodies and their texts. So you can tell that in the field recordings, Kevin, he didn't use a pitch pipe, because did you notice there were three field recordings of this song in Alan Lomax's collection? One was a fragment, one was in the key of C, and one was in the key of D.
Right.
So yes. They just
traditional musicians thing. It was in the key of me, as we say.
Yeah, right. He started it wherever he felt like on that day. Steve, did you want to say a little bit about Alan Lomax collecting in Ireland?
Well, sure. As we mentioned on Monday, Alan Lomax was in Europe for most of the 1950s. He was blacklisted in the U.S. during the McCarthyism era, when he was suspected of being a communist and therefore lost most of his jobs in broadcasting. By then, he had already left the Library of Congress. He was working as a private citizen, not for the government, doing all kinds of radio work and other work in the music field. And he got blacklisted. So he couldn't get jobs here. And he moved to Europe and primarily lived in London from the years 1950 to about, he was back here collecting in 1959. So he lived there certainly through part of 1958. And during that time, he did not sort of sit and rest on his laurels. He came up with many projects throughout Europe. So he collected not only in Britain and Ireland, but also in Spain and Italy and other places. But his Irish folklore collecting was very significant in that he was working there for Columbia Records, which meant that within a year or so of his collecting materials, it was actually coming out on LPs from all these countries, including Ireland. And his recordings from Ireland are among the first field recordings of most genres of Irish traditional music, including old style or sean-nós singing, to become available to the public in a commercial form. So the Irish Folklore Commission was making recordings at the same time, which is what Seamus Ennis was doing, but those didn't become commercially available to anyone. Lomaxes were suddenly available to an almost global audience through Columbia Records, and so that was a pretty big deal at that time.
And you can buy the reissue of that very CD still today. And if Kevin had wanted to do it the easy way, instead of going to the digital archive at the Association for Cultural Equity, which has our post LC Lomax fieldwork, he could have gone to this now a CD.
But that wouldn't have been any fun.
That's right.
Like to do things the hard way.
Nowadays, nobody goes to CDs anymore. Anyway, we're getting old, and that's the way we think. But obviously, most people are just going online and downloading stuff, which is what Kevin did. So yeah.
Right. And these great collections of Alan Lomax's form part of our body of Irish and Northern Irish field recordings, which we have a handy dandy finding aid for, so that you, the researcher, can get a bird's eye view of the whole thing. Can we pop that link up to the American Folklife Center Archives finding aid? It's called Ireland and Northern Ireland Collections in the Archive of Folk Culture, which is what we used to call ourselves before we were the American Folklife Center Archive. Let's pop up that link in the chat window. It's I can't see whether it's there or not yet, but yeah, www.loc.gov/folklife/guides/Ireland.html. So, Kevin, let's talk about you and your current and upcoming activities.
Enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Enough about Alan Lomax. Let's talk about you. Because I happen to know you have a concert coming up, and maybe you'll tell us a little bit about that. It's coming up very, very soon, so we can all have an opportunity to attend.
Sure. So it's coming up quite soon, as in tomorrow, and it is through IMT Folk, the Institute of Musical Traditions, which is located right in Tacoma Park in the DC area. And I'm performing alongside my friend and longtime musical partner. Well, long time for me, Sean Healy. He's a great champion fiddler. We're doing like a little segment, and then also appearing is kind of the Winch family band, if you will.
Great, we know them well.
Yes, so many of you probably know the Winches. So that is going to be a live streamed performance tomorrow evening. And I think that we'll be able to maybe link you guys to that in the chat, hopefully. Okay, great. Wonderful. So that'll be a great, it's sort of a St. Patrick's Day celebration one day after the fact.
And that's on their outdoor stage. I'm just trying to get people to know where it actually is. So it's on their outdoor stage next to Tonal Park on Westmoreland Avenue in Tacoma Park. Is that right?
I believe we're going to be inside the studio just because it's live streamed.
So I see. So it'll be inside Tonal Park then.
Yes.
Yeah, the wing of Tonal Park that's called Alley World is where the concerts are streamed.
So that is on Westmoreland Avenue in Tacoma Park. And we would love a lot of people to show up for Kevin's concert.
Oh, somebody asked what time. It's at 7:30, and the tickets are $10, and they're at www.imtfolk.org. I think that's all you would need to know. Yeah, so $10, and it starts at 7:30.
Yeah,
reasonable, affordable, and it's going to be a wonderful concert. We know Sean, of course.
Yeah, we're actually jealous because this is the anniversary of our not playing with Sean, because Sean was going to be in our St. Patrick's Day concerts last year, and we actually rehearsed them. But then the pandemic happened, and the concerts were all canceled.
We couldn't do the concerts.
So
Sean has played one concert with our group, which is called the Ocean Quartet. He played a Christmas concert with us, but he was going to be in our St. Patrick's Day concerts too, and sadly.
Let me just say, I'm glad to hear of musicians working. And
Exactly.
this is wonderful. So you work a lot in a lot of different areas. I know that in addition to your work with Irish traditional music, you also work as a jazz and pop keyboardist. You're a chamber singer in the unaccompanied early music group, the Suspicious Cheese Lords. You're a choir member at Church of the Ascension and St. Agnes. Have I missed anything of your non-Irish activities?
I think that's a pretty good summary.
That's a lot. Yeah. So I guess I have to ask, do your jazz and early music influences ever creep into your interpretations of Irish traditional music? You know, like 7/9 chords appearing in your piano chords to your Irish traditional tunes, or Fitzwilliam virginal book figures. Does it creep in, or do you keep them compartmentalized?
That's a great question. Compartmentalizing kind of reminds me of cuisine. There's certain things on your plate that you want to blend together, and there's certain things on your plate that you would rather keep separate. And so I think I try to let the training behind those other styles influence my Irish stuff, but not the literal, top, not the literal sounds, in the sense that, I enjoy Irish traditional music as being separate from those other things, because I've done those other things so much that it's nice to have something that is quite different. But I do kind of let them blend a little bit under the surface, and sometimes in the way I'm thinking about it.
And we might hear that on your upcoming solo album that you're working on. How far into your solo album are you in the recording of it?
Well, I'm a little ways in. I still have some tracks left to record, but everything is, I've got everything planned out and set. And I've actually recorded some wonderful videos for the album as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So if you follow, hopefully we can get some links. But I'll have updates on that on my website and on my Facebook. That should be coming out late spring, maybe around May or June.
Great.
And who knows, folks, there might even be a song from the American Folklife Center archive collections on that album.
There is a very strong chance of that happening.
That would be cool, but no pressure. No pressure. Right? Can we pop up? I know, Kevin, we were talking when we talked on the phone, you mentioned your Patreon site. Could we pop up the link in the chat for Kevin's website and also his Patreon site?
Yes. That would be great.
Just for folks who don't, I've never used Patreon myself. So for me and other folks who haven't used it, either as someone being supported or a donor doing the supporting, can you explain a little bit about Patreon?
Sure. So Patreon, as you can sort of tell, the word sounds like the word patron. And it's a platform for artists. I guess it doesn't have to be artists, but it tends to be artists who set up a page and they basically ask for supporters who are interested in what that artist does and want to support whatever they're doing. And then, so in exchange for small monetary pledges from these supporters, the artist puts out content on that site. So it could be a video, it could be a blog post, it could be sending you something in the mail, it could be sending you a batch of cookies or a teddy bear in the mail. It could be anything, perks that the artist decides. So my website, my Patreon site is very much video centered. I'm creating a lot of tutorials and just fun little, videos where I talk about different subjects from Irish traditional music and ballads and a little bit of music theory. So yeah, I would appreciate you guys checking that out. There's a lot of great stuff about songs and ballads on that site.
Definitely. Right. We'll encourage everyone to do that. Steve, did you have any more questions for Kevin before we talk about the stay-at-home archive challenge?
I don't know. I think we've covered the basics of Kevin's.
Yeah, all I can say is I'm really looking forward to that solo album.
Absolutely, yeah. It sounds like a lot of fun.
There are some questions in the chat I could throw out that are coming up from the audience. So one of them is, Kevin, can you just say a little bit about what drew you to the song that you chose?
Oh, sure. So, well, the first thing that drew me to it was just Seamus Ennis' very strong singing. Just, you can tell exactly what he's saying, which is nice. So rhythmic, and he's just got this nice emphasis on certain words. And the story is, like we talked about, it's simultaneously funny but also serious. And I think those are some of the most captivating stories that really just stick with you. And the other thing was that my album the theme is songs of war. So that's every song on the album, sort of comes at that from a different angle. And this kind of attracted my attention as a little bit of an upbeat song. Most of the other ones are rather lugubrious. So I thought that this was a nice example of a kind of little bit of a more upbeat song that is about war. So yeah, that's what attracted me to this song.
That's great. Thank you. How about another question? What are the song or songs that you sang when you won the awards?
Great question.
Oh, it's funny. Like after I did the competition, I then completely stopped singing those songs for such a long time. It's so weird how that works. But one of them was Astor McCree. That was the slow piece that I sang, which means, treasure of my heart or love of my heart. It's an emigration song. And then the other one was, it was called The Boys of Tandragee. That was the lively song. You have to do one slow and one lively. So that's what it was, Astor McCree and The Boys of Tandragee, which rhymes, but that was a coincidence.
You can make a limerick for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, and to clarify, even though Astor McCree is a phrase in Irish, the song itself is in English. That's the only.
Oh, I should have. Yes. That's the only Irish phrase. The rest of the song is in English. That's right.
That's great.
It's common in Ireland for English speakers to call people Astor McCree. It's a term of endearment that comes from Gaelic. So yeah. Cool.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kevin. So I know I'm speaking for the whole room when I say I hope we're going to be able to bring you back to sing one of those or something else sometime again in the Daily Antidote. I'm going to flip it back to Steve and Jen to see if there's anything else we should say before we ask Kevin to sing us a little bit more of his first song.
Yeah, I would say just one last thing, which is that we've been talking about how you can also participate in the archive challenge. And we do have a blog post that I wrote back toward the beginning of the pandemic, which was called Spending a Lot of Time at Home, Take the Archive Challenge. And we'll put a link to that up in the chat. And it's got, in addition to sort of general instructions for how you might do this, there's a list of collections that are online at the Library of Congress website, and a list of collections that are online at other sites, which include this vast Alan Lomax collection, which was actually put up online by his private foundation that he founded after he left the Library of Congress. So that's a vast collection, but there are others too that you might want to explore. So check out the chat and you'll find a link to that blog post, which will tell you how you can also participate in the Archive Challenge.
And we've got our homegrown at-home concert series starting up very soon.
Well, it has started up.
It has already started
up. And so our next one is March 24th. We've got 2 concerts from the Republic of Georgia. So they're both vocal groups, one men's group and one women's group. So those are March 24th at noon and then at 12:30.
And they're just little bite-sized, just like Daily Antidote of Song. They're 30 minutes and the recordings are made by the musicians in their homes. So if it's Finnish music, it's from Finland. If it's Georgian music, you're seeing it coming to you from Georgia. So please join in. And just if you forget any of this stuff, just go to our American Folklife Center website, www.loc.gov/folklife, all one word, FOLKLIFE.
Thanks, Steve and Jen. And Aaron has made it really easy by sticking all those links into the chat for everybody. I do want to say, I want to shout out a quick thank you as long as we're talking about other things that are going on. Dennis Donnelly, who played for us today as we entered the room, is about to leave. He's about to leave for his sound check because he's actually going to be on again at 1 o'clock with Elizabeth Melvin's Rise and Sing. So anybody who wants to go out of this room and right into her room is welcome to join there. And I also want to say that we have a community sing on March 21. As lots of you know, you've been there before. Please join us for more Irish singing and women's history and lots of other fun stuff. Plus, if you have a birthday in March, make sure you send your photo to us so we can put you in the photo banner of all the birthdays of the month. We'll sing happy birthday right to you. So Steve and Jen, thank you so much. That was amazing. Kevin, that was completely amazing. Are we good to go ahead and ask Kevin to sing?
Yeah, let's leave on a singing note. So Kevin, could you just reprise a little bit of Mrs. McGrath, whether you want to do 2 verses, 3 verses, just take us out singing, however you choose to do it.
Okay, sure. Well, let's do the last 5 voices or last 5 verses of the song.
Okay.
And everybody, join in with the tooraya, fall da diddle da, tooraya, with the tooraya, fall da diddle da, tooraya. All right, here we go. Well then, were you drunk or were you blind when you left your 2 fine legs behind? Or was it the working on the sea wore your 2 fine legs from the knees away with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya, with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. No, I wasn't drunk and I wasn't blind when I left my 2 fine legs behind. But a big cannonball on the 5th of May took my 2 fine legs from the knees away with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya, with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. Oh, then Teddy, me boy, the widow cried, those 2 fine legs were your mother's pride. These stumps of a tree wouldn't do at all. Why didn't you run from the cannonball with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya, with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. Well then, if I had you back again, I would never let you go to fight the King of Spain. For I'd rather have my Ted as he used to be than the King of France and his whole navy with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya, with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. All foreign wars I do proclaim between Don John and the King of Spain. And by heavens I'll make them rue the time that they swept the legs of a child of mine with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya, with the tooraya, da da diddle da, tooraya. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you so much. That was so amazing. Kevin, it was so great to get you in here singing for St. Patrick's Day. We're so glad we got to share this with you, and really looking forward to going and looking into more of your music and seeing what else you've got going on out there. Thank you also to Dennis Donnelly again for bringing us in with that beautiful harping and for that Zoom miracle. Thank you, Zoom. I thought I'd never say thank you, Zoom, for that Zoom miracle of being able to say hellos and hear Dennis in the background. That was pretty cool. Thank you, Steve and Jen. Thank you to the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress for this amazing partnership. It's so great to be able to sing and explore the music with the kind of depth that we can do when we have folklorists and ethnomusicologists hosting us. So thanks again, guys, for all of that. Thank you also to everybody in this room for joining today. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook Live. Please join us tomorrow for another great day of our Archive Challenge Week. And thank